Hello, everybody. This is Susan Kokinda with your midweek update. Today is October 16th. And while everybody is counting down the days to Election Day, this last week has been a week of extraordinary developments, not the least of which was the spectacular weekend landing of the SpaceX Super Heavy booster. My colleagues Barbara Boyd and Michael Carr touched on some of the more profound implications of this on Promethean Action's website on Monday. And I'm going to come back to that later in this update, but I want to resituate it in the context of Donald Trump's interview yesterday at the Economic Club of Chicago, where Trump pulled out the guns in a showdown with, quite literally, the British Empire, represented by John Micklethwait, Bloomberg News' editor-in-chief, who perhaps more importantly is a commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE. Yes, despite their Commonwealth trappings, the British still award orders of the British Empire. Micklethwait was awarded the CBA after 10 years of service as the editor-in-chief of The Economist, the economic mouthpiece of the City of London and the Empire. And during that time, he did manage to make one sojourn to the Bilderberg Conference in 2010. Trump was ready for Micklethwait. He said, I looked him up. This is not a man who has been a big Trump fan over the years, nor is Micklethwait a fan of the American system of government. He let it all hang out in an interview to Rattle Trump on January 6th, saying in his best British accent, which I am not going to try and reproduce, that January 6th showed to many people that American democracy is unruly and violent. I guess John hasn't gotten over that 1776 thing yet. Trump may also have looked up the fact that the man for whom Micklethwait works, namely Michael Bloomberg, became an honorary Knight Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire at a ceremony at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. in 2015, which was attended by none other than Vice President Joe Biden. This came a few months after Micklethwait was appointed editor of Bloomberg News. Now, that exchange toward the end between Trump and Micklethwait, why do so many of these British names force you to lisp? Anyway, that exchange came toward the end of an hour of interview combat, which was largely focused on economic policy, and most of that on tariff policies. Trump was literally like a pit bull on the benefits of what he calls the most beautiful word in the world, tariffs, and how his aggressive tariff policies did and will protect American companies and American jobs and grow the economy. Micklethwait tried to argue the Kamala Harris campaign line that tariffs will be like a sales tax and it will increase the cost to Americans by multi-thousands of dollars. He also tried to argue that deporting illegal immigrants will leave labor shortages and drive prices up. He cited great economic authorities like the Congressional Budget Office and the Wall Street Journal, and Trump simply said, they're wrong and you're wrong because you don't believe in tariffs. And he held his ground on the American solution, which is based in producing our way out of the crisis by fostering production and good-paying jobs right here in the United States. Frankly, you just have to watch the interview, which is the pure essence of Donald Trump, an American, a patriot, and a leader of uncompromising courage confronting a self-important imperial fop. But before you watch the interview, and you really should, we have it linked on our website, I want to put it in a sharper political and historical context, because understanding this is going to be essential to making our way through the remaining days of this election period successfully. And success means not only winning, but keeping Trump alive. And it also means coming out of this election with a very clear understanding of what we will be facing in 2025 and beyond. Now, there's already been a lot of commentary on Trump's interview in Chicago, but nobody really seems to get it. The Spectator, a British-based magazine, did admit with a headline, "The President Devours Bloomberg Editor for Lunch." And it complains that, quote, "the former president abused John Micklethwaite for asking perfectly reasonable questions." Then you get the conservative treehouse on our side of the pond, typical of many pro-Trump outlets, which extolled the fact that Trump eviscerated the globalists and the World Economic Forum, et cetera, et cetera. But what nobody really seemed to recognize is that this Chicago interview highlighted, perhaps in one of the most demonstrative ways in over 100 years, the truthful nature of America's enemy. It is the British imperial system, which still exists. You can put it in the kind of comfortable modern parlance of globalism, but it is really in understanding the species nature of the British Empire that is critical. Because that empire still hates and wants to destroy the first sovereign nation-state republic in the world, namely our United States of America. So many might grasp the generic nature of that politically, but where most fail is in understanding how this works in the realm of economics. And clearly Trump does understand this. But for too many, the philosophy of Adam Smith, the propagandist and apologist for the British East India Company and the Bank of England, continues to pollute conservatives and patriots to this day in the form of the Austrian school, the Chicago school, and political programs like the Contract for America. The ideological foundations of free trade and free market and monetarism are almost the default option for most of the average Trump supporters. Now, there isn't time in this discussion to delve into it, but if you think that the economics peddled by the Heritage Foundation, which of course was the mother of Project 2025, or Hillsdale College have anything to do with Trump's American system policies, you either aren't paying attention or you have some work to do to familiarize yourself with our actual history. Promethean Action will be lending a hand soon with the publication of a new pamphlet entitled What President Trump Can Do with the American System 2.0, which will be available soon in print and on our website. We will also be reissuing our explosive dossier entitled It is the British Who Murder Our Presidents. This was issued in February of this year, and it will be coming out again soon with a revised introduction in light of the recent assassination attempts against President Trump. These are two really good reasons to subscribe to Promethean Action. Now, let me touch on some of the political developments of the past week. It's clear that the campaign of the Kamala puppet is hemorrhaging support in key constituencies: labor, Hispanics, blacks, Arab Americans, and more broadly. I had friends who attended Trump's rally in Southern California this weekend, and they reported a surprising number of people who were not Trump supporters who had come to the rally and had not yet decided on who to vote for, but wanted to see Trump personally for themselves. This gives an indication of how the controlled environment is cracking. Now, the response of the Harris campaign to this is encapsulated by the strategy of sending Barack Obama out to lecture black men that they should just suck it up and vote for Kamala because she's black. This is pretty much the same thing as saying, stop thinking for yourself, boy, and do as you're told. Now, contrast that to the appearance of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump 2 days apart in Detroit last week. J.D. gave a brilliant response to the question, why should Black Americans vote for the Republican ticket? He reminded the audience that blacks, and especially whites from Appalachia, flocked to cities like Detroit generations ago to work side by side and make a better life, and that is what Trump-Vance administration will revive. Speaking at the Detroit Economic Club 2 days later, Trump deepened those themes with another master class on how tariffs will save the auto industry and create a Michigan miracle as part of making America a manufacturing superpower. Of course, the Harris campaign and the mainstream media ignored the message of Trump's speech and focused on his insult to Detroit, which consisted of him recognizing that for most residents, Detroit has never recovered from what has already happened as a result of the shrinkage of the auto industry and as a prelude of what will happen under 4 more years of green and free trade policy. As a kind of exclamation point to Trump's warnings, Stellantis, one of the big 3, is considering plant closings as well as moving its headquarters out of Michigan. Its profits are down 50% over the last year. Contrast the current death spiral of companies which are trapped in a dying system to what Elon Musk and SpaceX did over the weekend. The successful catch and landing of the Super Heavy booster opens the door to a new era of manned exploration of our solar system and beyond. The implications of that economically and culturally are breathtaking. This is something that Musk and Trump understand, and it's something which John Kennedy understood. Think about Elon Musk and what he's accomplished and what he's put on the line in now going all in for Donald Trump. And think about Trump's awe at what Musk accomplished this weekend and his recent comment that while he will have Musk work on government efficiency, he doesn't want to divert him from the most important work he has to do, to get us to Mars by the end of Trump's term. This actually gets to the essence of the conflict between the imperial view of man and the true nature of humanity, which the American Revolution unleashed. The imperial view is that we're no better than animals. Maybe we're a little more logical, but we cannot change our basic relationship to nature. We have to bow down to Mother Earth and cap or cut our population. Last week, I reported on Musk's attack on the depopulation crowd, calling them anti-human and misanthropic. Like JFK, Musk and Trump understand that man's destiny is to push the next frontiers into our solar system, and that by mastering new principles and technologies, we can sustain more people and more prosperity. It is the presidents who reflect that outlook, and Trump does it more combatively than any of them, who are a threat to the imperial elite and are the targets of assassination, as our dossier documents. In closing, I want to turn to Henry Carey. He was the economic advisor to our first assassinated president, Abraham Lincoln. Carey said, "There are 2 systems before the world. One looks to pauperism, depopulation, and barbarism. The other in increasing wealth, comfort, intelligence, combination of action, and civilization. One looks toward universal war, the other toward universal peace. One is the English system, and the other we may be proud to call the American system." So I think Henry Carey, from the middle of the 19th century, summed up very well what is at stake in the next few weeks and in the months and years ahead. So get out there and organize like the future depends on it. This has been your Midweek Update. Thanks for listening.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.